Good. Hello. I've never done this before, and I appreciate the quality. This is webcam quality. But I thought I'd have a chat about the Manbooker. I have absolutely no idea if I can see what you guys say or not, and if not, I will just have a ramble. If there is a way to talk to me, then please do. Yeah, so the Manbooker shortlist came out today, and a few people asked on my shortlist predictions video whether I was going to talk about my feelings and thoughts on the books that ended up being shortlisted. And I thought it could be quite fun to do it like this rather than filming another video about the shortlist, which was quite a lot. So I was going to go through the ones that have been shortlisted and just have a general chat about the ones that weren't. So you probably know what they are already, but just in case you haven't checked today, the shortlisted books were Milkman by Anna Burns, Everything Under by Daisy Johnson, Washington Black by Essie Edigwan, The Long Take by Robin Robertson, The Mars Room by Rachel Kushner, and The Over Story by Richard Powers. So I'll start with this one thing that's in my hands. I'm really glad that this one was on there. I have done my review of this one and it's live already. So if you've seen that one, you know that I really enjoyed this book, and it is, of the books I have next to me currently, my preferred winner. And it is, if you haven't heard me talk about it at all, a book about trees told through a number of different characters. There's a lot of characters in here, and I think I found that a little bit confusing to start with, but overall I quite enjoyed the breadth of the book. It is a big one. It took me a long time to get through. But if you're interested in long narrative stories told through individual narratives, and I think the Over Story is one that you may well enjoy. And if you have like even a passing interest in conservation or the environment, then I think you should definitely read it. I think it is by far the best book I've read on that subject so far, and this is currently my winner. I'll talk a little bit more about some disappointment in a second. The next one I've got is The Mars Room by Rachel Kushner, and I really didn't expect this one to be here. So I actually quite enjoyed it, and like as a reading experience, I thought it was quite interesting, but everyone else seemed to be so overwhelmingly negative about their feelings towards the Mars Room that I thought I was wrong. And to be honest, I still don't think I wanted it to be shortlisted. I think I still hold by my shortlist predictions that I made. But it is actually quite a good book, and I think I said that in my review. Like, I felt as though I reviewed it before it was even on my Manbooker list, because I liked it, and it was sort of about prisons, but around like the experience of that and all the things that happen inside of prisons and different populations of people. And I know that some other people on BookTube have felt that it's gratuitous or too much, and I really didn't feel that. I've since read afterwards that she did quite a lot of research in women's prisons and in asking prisoners for like realistic narratives, and I think that for me kind of assuages some of the doubts about it just being for shock value. I do think she had purpose to what she was doing. Yeah, and I think my experiences of what prison life is like, and I've never been to prison, don't worry, but like I've written to people who've been in prison, and it doesn't seem out of line of what stories they had told me. And I know, you can only take with a pinch of salt things you haven't seen for yourself, but I didn't think that was the element to dislike about it. I just didn't necessarily think it was as strong as some of the other books. I'm not disappointed really to see that it's there, because I think it means more people will read it, and I do actually think it is good. It's just going to be about where your limits are with that violence and negative content, I think. It's definitely worth a read. Which one? I'm just gonna grab some tea. So this is what you get to edit out when you when you film properly. It's like I require tea. Yeah. So the next one was The Long Take. I really like this one, and this one with the overstory and normal people, more chat soon, were probably my two favourites and would be in my top three. It's a novel written in verse about a man who treks from country to country to country, city to city in hello Foster. Hi babes, wanna say hello? Yeah. In the United States, and he's dealing with his PTSD. Hi, hi, oh, hi. He's dealing with his PTSD and also kind of exploring what the world is like for him and for other people who've been um, in world wars, basically. And he's been in World War One, and he's seeing World War Two happen. It's like, oh my goodness, not again. And I feel as though this kind of depiction of people at home after a war and PTSD is more interesting to me than a lot of the World War One, World War Two stuff I've read, which is tends to be like how people cope during the war and soldiers and their lovers at home, and that's just not my thing at all. Whereas this kind of like really gritty, quite cinematic book, I think was actually really well done. I do have to watch the cat because she has a disturbing tendency to turn off laptops. But yeah, so I would recommend Long Take if you're into any of those things, or you just want to see what a Manbooker long listed book in verse looks like. There's this one, Foster. Foster, love, come here. She will turn you off. She gets very jealous. You sweetly. She gets very jealous when I talk to you from the laptop. So yeah, the writing I think is really what sold me on this more than anything else. Because it's just gorgeous. I think I described in my review of that one some of the language that was there, and I gave it a few readings of things that I'd enjoyed. And I think if you haven't gotten around to it already, or you haven't read any of them, I do think The Long Take's really worth a read. And I'm really glad that it was shortlisted. It's one I think would have not really garnered much attention at all if it wasn't on the Man Booker list. Interestingly, it's also listed as poetry, and I think I don't know if I said this in my review or not, but it's published as poetry, and I find that really interesting given the Booker's stance as to whether or not they really do short stories. It kind of feels like if you're doing something that's literally published as poetry and something that's published as a graphic novel, surely short stories should count. So yeah, but the Man Booker judges, I'm just saying, are completely oblivious to all public opinion and desires. So I don't know that we'll get short stories sort of formally approved anytime soon. But it's interesting nevertheless, and it is a really good book. So I'm really glad to see that one there. The next one I have is Washington Black, which I listened to on audiobook and I've yet to film a review of, but I have actually read this one. And I did get on with it. I thought it was definitely shortlistable, and I put it on my shortlist predictions. I think it is a very popular book. I think a lot of people have really enjoyed it. I quite liked it. I thought it kind of paced along, bounced along quite nicely as a story. It's very different to the kind of thing that I would normally pick up, and at points I think it read a little bit like a kind of middle grade YA story, not because of the content, because of elements of the story, like there are many different locations that this story is set in, and they vary a lot. So there's like deserts and plantations and the Arctic, and it just kind of feels like quite a wide breadth of locations. And for some reason, that reminds me of sort of children's fiction. But obviously, the topic it's around, which is around a young slave child who's born on a plantation, who's called George Washington Black, isn't really what I would normally think of as YA. Yeah, I don't think I would be disappointed if this won, really, but I do think that the Overstory and the Long Take are better books, but this is probably going to be more popular. I think a lot of people will like Washington Black, and it would be kind of exciting if it won because it would be the first Black female writer to win the Man Booker, I think, which would be called as an achievement. And it is a really good book. I will say that there is a section like probably about here, that little bit, where it gets really slow. And my boyfriend, who lent me this copy, stopped reading it then because he just couldn't deal with it. But it's worth going through, and everything that you get a bit frustrated about and a little bit bored by, I think, by that point, does wrap up really nicely at the end. And the ending made me like the book a lot more. So if you are reading it and you've stumbled a little bit, I do think it's worth pushing through to get to the end of Washington Black. More tea is required. There are 35 people here. It's very strange doing this around. I feel somehow closer to you while having this chat. And it's weird as well because I guess the only time I've done things like this is like Instagram. And by the way, if you are a fan of Instagram, I'm using it way more recently to chat and actually using it properly. So I think I'm just under portal in the pages there as well. If you fancy following me there, I do quite a lot of stories at the moment and like asking questions and stuff. So yeah, so I've only really done it on Instagram before, and their responses are really immediate. And I didn't know when I did this whether there'd be like ongoing comments or not. So it's a bit strange. I kind of feel like I'm talking directly to you, but I have nothing back. I'll probably find out when I finish. There is a way that people can talk, and I just don't know where it is. Anyway, Foster's being cute on my lap now. She's asleep. I might try and show you. Let's see if I can. There you go. I've only just come home from work, so she's being fairly loving. Okay, so the next one that's on the shortlist is Everything Under by Daisy Johnson. And I said in my review of this one that I thought this might be shortlisted. I didn't put it on like my shortlist predictions, but everyone else loves it. It's just not my kind of book. I don't know. I felt as though the writing was pretty, but almost to no end. I quite liked the writing, but I don't know that it added anything particularly. And I feel like I'm going to find this really forgettable. And I would be quite upset if this one won, just for me personally, because I feel as though it's like a lot of other books I read, a bit like The Water Cure actually, where I quite enjoy the reading experience, but I don't think there's something that 5 years on I'm going to go, yes, you should read Everything Under by Daisy Johnson. Though it's been so popular with other people who enjoy books, and the same kind of books like Evie Wilde and Celeste Ng and maybe even like Sarah Perry, like those kind of authors. If people like those, they seem to be really getting on with Daisy Johnson. It's not, I think it's a bad book. I really don't think it's a bad book. I just don't think it's particularly memorable. Hey, baby. The cat requires like constant touching. She's on heat as well at the moment, so if you don't touch her, she yells. Cool. So then the last book that is on the shortlist is Milkman by Anna Burns, and I've yet to read this one. I'm still like 30 pages in, which is where I was last time I spoke with you guys. It's really interestingly written, but in a very strange way, and I don't really know how to describe that. And I think this one wasn't really even on my radar to be shortlisted. Even I've not read it, so it feels a bit unfair. But because it was so weird, and I thought this one and potentially actually The Long Take might have ended up not getting a chance because they're strange or they're different to the other books on the list. And I really wasn't expecting this one to be here because I think it's the strangest of the books. And normally in the Manbooker, they do cull the ones that are a little bit more outside. And I do think there is an element of the popular vote. But I'm looking forward to reading it, and I'm still going to read Warlight as well, which is on there. That was on the bookies odds this morning when I looked it up, one of the highest rated ones. So I feel like 3 people who like books, they felt as though that one was worth betting on. So I still think it's going to be a decent book. But my biggest like disappointment feeling thing about the entire shortlist is I can't believe that Normal People isn't there. I would have been sad if it didn't win. I can't believe it hasn't even been shortlisted. I've like through my breaks at work today, been like going through Twitter, like looking for other people who are like as upset as I am that Normal People isn't there. Tea again. Like I haven't uploaded the review of that one yet, and I've got a few that I've read and reviewed but haven't uploaded because I've read them all really fast. So I'm trying to eke them out through the whole Manbooker period so that you get more consistent videos. But I gave like such a rave review of Normal People. I loved it so much, and it's one of my books of the year. I don't know that it's going to be my favorite book of the year because there's a couple others that have been really, really brilliant. But it's going to be like top 5, and I was already in my head getting excited for when they announced the winner, and for me to be like, "Yay, go! Normal People was such a fabulous book," and not even to have it there as an option to just be like, it just, I don't know, just feels like an absolute shame, and I don't really understand that decision. I feel like any of the other ones I'd wanted to be shortlisted that weren't shortlisted. I get it. Like I feel as though some of them are really good. Some of them are like good books, but it's that memorable. Is it a book that's worth celebrating for a long period of time, or is it just bad? Snap. And Normal People for me was like 100% in that memorable camp, like 100%, like great, like best all round characterization I've seen in forever. And I was so upset that it wasn't there. I think if I had to choose one book to take off to add Normal People on, it would be The Martyrdom, which I enjoyed. And I think the nice thing about this year is, whilst I think I've read better Manbooker years, I think I've had years in which more of the books on the long list have wowed me than this year's. I have actually quite enjoyed the reading experience of most, if not all, of the Manbookers that I've read. And I don't think, bar Snap, any of them were bad books. And if you're interested in like reading the whole shortlist, I think probably go ahead. Like I think you'll probably have a good time with it. I always really love reading the long list. I think it's great. And I don't think there's that much time actually between the shortlist and the winner. I feel like they're always a bit like, here's a long list and here's a shortlist and here's a winner. Let's see if I can verify my facts on that. If you have, if you've never delved into the Manbooker website, which I just refresh constantly when the prizes are on, but they do have all the dates on there. So the winner is on the 16th of the 10th. So you actually only have like under a month to read the shortlist before the winner comes out if you want to. My overall recommendations from the shortlist to read would be The Long Take, The Overstory, and Washington Black. I think those 3 are worth your time more than the others. And The Overstory is long, I think it's brilliant, and that's definitely the one I'm reading for now. It's hard not to just feel sad for Sally Rooney and for Normal People, but The Overstory is just so worth your time. And I don't want my disappointment over one book to overshadow how much I enjoyed the other one. I said in my review of The Overstory, I think I said it in my review of The Overstory, if you were going technically, it should 100% win. And if you were going with your heart, I thought Normal People should have won. And because my heart has been pulled out and given to the Manbooker prize judges, I'm going with my head and I want The Overstory to win. I think that's all I'm going to say here today. I have absolutely no idea what happens when I end stream, whether it publishes as a video or what. But hopefully it's been enjoyable just to hear me ramble for a little bit. I thought it'd be nice to just try something different. And yeah, thank you for putting up with the quality as well. This is what my old quality used to be like. So for those of you who haven't been around since the beginning, this was what we did before. Yeah, I'm reading Conversations with Friends. See, here I go again. I'm just going to chat for a bit. I'm reading Conversations with Friends by Sally Rooney, which I'm liking, but it's not the same as Normal People. I'm less interested in people's romance marriage than I am about teenage uni, which I guess makes sense because I'm not married, so maybe it's just that element of closeness. And I'm also reading 1974 by David Peace, which is like the fastest paced book I've ever read. Things happen like, and there's nothing you can do to stop them. But I think I'm going to try and focus on Conversations with Friends first, because I want to finish one of those 2 before I start Milkman by Anna Burns or Warlight, whichever one of the 2 that is, because I'll definitely read both of those within the next month. And then that'll mean I'll have a full Manbooker review set for you. Yeah, I don't know if you can tell me what you're reading. I'd love to hear how you are, but I don't know how it works. I might do one of these again in future. I may do a live show for the reveal, or I might film the video and just upload it real quick. I'd like to do a live show, but the quality is so poor that I don't know if people will be interested. And I worry that when my quality is this poor, but hopefully it's been fun anyway, just as something different. And I hope you'll have a really lovely night. I'm going to make my dinner and read for a bit. I'll see you guys again soon. Bye.